Earlier, I asked CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford for her take on the comments made by President Trump and Vice President Pence.
Well, I think that if you kind of listen to them, they're really not in conflict at all. The president is saying if they're going to filibuster, then Mitch McConnell, you can trigger that nuclear option. And you see the vice president saying, well, maybe not, it may not be necessary. That's not necessarily the best route. The reason I think they're not conflicting is because I don't think Democrats are going to filibuster Judge Gorsuch. It's not in their interest. The Republicans actually would like to have that fight right now, because then that would keep them from having to have the fight for the next nomination when a more, when a less conservative justice were to step down. That would be an enormous fight, which they very well may have to use the filibuster blowing up nuclear option for that. So this could solve Republicans, a lot of the Republicans' problems if they were able to just get rid of the filibuster now. When you're considering a nominee who's replacing a conservative icon, Democrats would have a hard time, justifying that argument. So that's why I think at the end of the day, Democrats are going to realize that it is really not in their interest to have Republicans do away with the filibuster for Neil Gorsuch.
And let's say, though, that, Jan, for the sake of argument, that things did get to that point and there was the triggering of the nuclear option. How unprecedented would a move like that be?
Well, Democrats actually did away with the filibuster and triggered the nuclear option when they were in control of the Senate for lower court judges and for cabinet level appointees. So they stopped short of doing it for the Supreme Court, potentially because it's hardly ever used. So it's not unprecedented, and Republicans certainly would make that argument that the Democrats did it. Now they're just taking it the next final step and just doing it away with it across the board. But I don't think it's going to come to that. I think Democrats are going to realize that the Republicans would actually like to have this fight now when you've got Neil Gorsuch replacing Antonin Scalia.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question. Would it make more sense from a strategic standpoint, looking at the makeup of the court right now, to perhaps have the Democrats save their political firepower for this nominee and wait until the second potential nomination by President Trump?
I think without question, because the next nomination, if it's Justice Anthony Kennedy, let's say it's Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that'll change the balance of the Supreme Court. Justice Kennedy is a conservative, but he's voted with liberals on social issues, from abortion rights, same-sex marriage, race, religion, a host of issues that really get the headlines and that people care about when they look at the Supreme Court. That fight will be unlike anything we have seen for the Supreme Court in years, because Democrats will be able to say this nominee will change, potentially America. And so they will be willing to kind of just do whatever it takes to block that nominee and to get a nominee confirmed for it. I think Republicans at that point would probably have to trigger the nuclear option, but then see it's a harder argument for them because this justice will change the balance of the court. So it's harder for them to argue that Democrats have no leg to stand on.
All right, Jan Crawford in Washington for us. Jan, thank you.